So like I said, we're going to spend a bit of time talking about exploitation now. So we want to look at all the different ways in which children may be exploited. Although the types of exploitation and the language that we use can change, the basic premise will stay the same. An adult targeting a child and abusing their power for their own needs. Whether that be sexual exploitation, labour exploitation, or criminal exploitation in county lines, your children should never be blamed for the abuse they experience. The child's behaviour and response is not the crime. Child exploitation will always be the crime. Tonight, we want to explore what is happening in the wider community. So a lot of you with us tonight will live in Devon. Devon is a really great place to live, and according to Devon County Council figures in 2020, 10% of our population is made up between 10 to 19-year-olds. Not all and retired people then, as we were often led to believe. We have the highest number of children's homes per head of the population in England, and we have over 800 children living in local authority care. That equates to a lot of families that are potentially struggling. But as we will see tonight, it's not only the families that services know about that we need to be aware of. 313,000 children in the UK are thought to be involved in criminal activity, but only a really small percentage of those are already working with services. It's a growing concern for all of our children. Please don't be drawn into a false sense of security that it's just those who already live in challenging situations or areas, or those with additional vulnerabilities. This really can and absolutely does affect any family.
Chloe, we're not sick of your voice yet, but I'm just wondering if you can hear me any better now.
Yeah, we can. Do you want to take over?
Do you want me to start talking, Chloe?
Thanks, Emma.
Apologies, everyone. I hope you can hear me now. Please, somebody, Becca or Claire, do jump in if you can't hear me. So you will probably have heard the expression county lines from the news or from social media or from safety campaigns, etc. And your children will most certainly have had some information from their school about it. But as parents, you might not have had much detail shared with you, yet you are, as always, the front line in security and protecting your teenagers. So county lines is a form of criminal exploitation where criminal gangs persuade, coerce or force children and young people to either store items or transport them to suburban areas such as our coastal towns. So when we're talking about storing items, we're thinking about drugs, weapons and money. And this is where living in Devon with our great rail network isn't always so great. You know, some places in Devon, such as Exeter, Teignmouth and Dawlish, are perfect target areas for this type of activity. The trains are actually really quite good down in South Devon. So county lines is an issue that can lead to serious physical and emotional harm to our young people. We are seeing younger and younger children being approached to carry drugs and knives, and this is because they're less likely to be stopped by the police and they are much easier to coerce and threaten. There are now cases of 5- and 6-year-old children in larger cities such as London and Manchester being targeted and recruited by these gangs. And quite often what we see in Devon is that we follow these big cities a few years later. The Children's Society website tells us the harrowing story of a 7-year-old who had a drug debt of over £1,000, and this led to a threat on his life. And as we said, gangs like these younger children, these new recruits, because these children have got no previous criminal history. They often refer to these young people as clean skins, so young people with no prior police involvement and often from families who aren't involved with any services or agencies. Quite possibly your children. So, for example, your children might start going to parties in the next few years, parties that aren't organised by the parents or that you're not at. And at these parties, they might be offered something to smoke, maybe some weed, and they accept this and they smoke it, assuming that it's free. They then get asked to pay for it, and they get asked to pay an overinflated price. Your children have got no money on them, but the friend that gave it to them wants paying now, and they threaten them if they can't pay. So your child may be offered another way to pay off this debt, such as selling more drugs to another friend. And lots of young people who get into real trouble this way are just too embarrassed and can't bring themselves to ask their friends or parents for support. They may feel that their parents have enough money worries and they don't want to ask for any more money than they need to. They may receive threats from the gang, such as, "I know where your little sister goes to school," or "I know where you live." And in this way, they are going to be coerced into carrying and delivering more things. Gang leaders are very clever at not enabling our young people to leave. It might be that your child agrees to do one job. So, for example, they might drop a packet to somebody, but then on the way to dropping that packet, they get mugged. And then they end up owing the gang the money for what they lost and the money for what they should have picked up. We know that that mugger is part of the gang. And now your young person probably owes hundreds of pounds to that gang. Any child can get involved very quickly into something that they cannot get out of. So as well as being used to transport drugs, county lines gangs may also sexually abuse and exploit our children. And this can happen through children being groomed into what they believe is a romantic relationship. We also do need to understand that horrible realization that sometimes gangs are attractive and exciting to our children. If you think about movies such as The Fast and the Furious, or games that they play online on their Xbox, etc., gangs are always portrayed as glamorous and edgy, all the things that are very attractive to our young people. The St Giles Trust is an organisation that supports vulnerable young people who are at risk of or who are escaping from exploitation. And many of their team of workers are people who have previously led the kind of life that we're talking about. And they've done some extensive research about why young people are sometimes drawn more into this way of life. And one of the biggest reasons was money. Maybe not surprising, but actually for boys, it really was the main attraction, whereas it wasn't for most of the girls, unless they felt that they needed to support their families more. But any quick search of Instagram or Snapchat will show you hundreds of images of children and young people literally covering themselves in cash. Money is really attractive to young people, especially children who feel that peer pressure to have the latest trainers or the latest tickets to somewhere. There aren't enough good enough jobs that pay teenagers a decent wage, and the pressure on you as families right now in the cost of living means that very few of us have got limitless money to satisfy needs of our children. And criminal activity can appear to pay very well. And finally, something to do was another reason that gang members gave for joining. There's nothing else to do. I was bored. We looked at brain development and puberty a little bit last week and how we need to be constantly challenging our children. And this week, the message is the same. Keep your children busy. Get them into sports, watching or playing, watch Netflix together, sign them up to anything and everything, because a sense of belonging is still what most children are looking for when they join up to gangs. So please take any opportunity to open up these conversations with your children. Talk about movies you've watched. Point out any drug stories in the media where things have ended up way less than glamorous. And we need to remember that once a child becomes part of a county lines gang, their loyalty and commitment is going to be tested. So the gang are going to start to trap the child, as you can see, by making them feel powerless to leave. This might include threats of violence if they leave, making the child feel like they're betraying their new family, or telling the child that they'll get into trouble if they seek help because they've committed a criminal offence. A great time to just keep reminding our children that whatever news they've got to tell you, you're going to be okay with hearing that.